Good morning and welcome to the Take Your Life Back Today show. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach, a life coach, and a host of this show. Folks, today is Tuesday, November 7th, 2017. Beautiful day, early in the morning. God has blessed me with 86,400 seconds to live. I will utilize some of those seconds to thank Him for everything I do have and not to dwell on anything I don't have. And I will use a lot of those seconds for you folks to bring messages into your home, into your kitchen, possibly into your homeless shelter, into the rehab centers, or even the correction facilities. Folks, the importance of empathy, not only in life, but in addiction. Let's define what empathy is. Empathy is the ability to understand another person's point of view. It's also known as understanding, compassion, and sympathy. Why is empathy so important in addiction? An active addiction is all about us, and think of someone else's feelings is not a priority. We are so ego-driven that we do not care about anyone or anything, even less anyone's feelings. We are focused on getting our high, and that is it. Through recovery, we can learn to check our egos and focus on humility and empathy for others. Just as an addiction and an ego perpetuate, perpetuate one another, does recovery and empathy. Empathy is the essential to the treatment of addiction and alcoholism. Whether it is one addict understanding another addict, or the therapist who is working with the alcoholic, or even the family of an addict, it is imperative that there is empathy included. Empathy is a powerful tool in building trust and is developing a good relationship between human beings. Empathy is especially important in addiction because addicts and alcoholics are used to being judged, and they are always criticized. They normally feel like no one understands them. This is why empathy is an addiction so important to helping addicts recover from their addiction. Empathy can lead to less conflict in anyone's life, but especially in the life of those who are dealing with the addiction day after day. Whether it be the addict themselves or the families that are involved. Those families who have empathy for the addict in their lives can begin to heal much quicker than those who do not. Also, addicts who practice empathy will find themselves with better emotional sobriety on the road to recovery. Learning empathy in addiction. Empathy in addiction is something that has to be practiced on a daily basis. Empathy in addiction requires using the imagination to picture or feel how the other person may be feeling. In order to be able to empathize another person, the individual must be able to be self-aware. Someone who is caught up in denial or lacking insight into themselves and their own problems is going to struggle with empathy in addiction. Empathy does not mean approving of everything the other person is saying or doing. A person can disapprove and still be empathetic. There's a difference between empathy and enabling. Empathy is showing compassion and feelings towards their problem. Enabling is by supplying the resources to continue their addiction. Having empathy in addiction not only benefits the addict and strengthens their recovery, but it helps create a bond with relationships that the addicted have with others. This is especially important because of a lot of times in the families with the addict, the relationships are severely strained. Empathy can help to heal those relationships. Empathy in addiction can reduce conflict in everyone's life. Empathy also improves communication tremendously. Empathy also leads to an overall positive outlook in life. Empathy in addiction also makes people more open-minded about life in general. This is so important for the family of an addict and the addict themselves. Having an open mind can help the family heal and find new ways to cope. It can also help the addict find different solutions and willing to do what it needs to be done to succeed in recovery. If every person, not just addicts and alcoholics or their families, had a little bit more empathy in the world would be a more peaceful place to live in. I believe this to be true. Anger is fueled by misunderstanding. Just as bigotry, racism, sexism, and intolerances is fueled by people's inability to try to understand something different than who they are themselves. With empathy and addiction, more people can understand what is really going on with the addicts and the alcoholics. I practice empathy each and every day, no matter where I am in life. I have now been in recovery for years, but the fact that empathy played in my recovery is huge. But more importantly, I utilize not only empathy in my recovery, I utilize it in my daily life towards my family and towards others. But you have to understand that as a family, we need to show empathy to the person in our family that has an addiction, but we need to be careful that we don't confuse the two E's, empathy and enabling. Empathy is showing compassion and feelings. Enabling is giving resources or saying it's okay for the person to continuously drink or do drugs. We need to separate empathy and enabling. So if you ever question what empathy is the ability to understand another person's point of view. It is also known as understanding, compassion, and sympathy. Remember that, always remember, why is empathy important in addiction? In active addiction, it is all about us, and to think someone else's feelings is not a priority. We are so ego-driven that we do not care of anyone but ourselves, even less anyone's feelings. We are focused on getting our high, and that is it. Through recovery, we learn to check our egos and focus on humility and empathy for others. Empathy is essential to the treatment of the addiction and the alcoholic. Folks, empathy plays a huge factor in bringing the addict and their family together to build trust again. Learning empathy and addiction is a huge thing that you need to understand. Empathy and addiction is something that has to be practiced on a daily basis, not something that we just have within ourselves. Empathy and addiction requires using imagination to picture of how we feel towards other people and how they feel towards us. In order to be able to emphasize, we need to be able to be self-aware of what we do on a daily basis. Empathy does not mean approving of everything the other person is saying or doing. It's not enabling. Empathy and enabling are two opposites. A person can disapprove and still be empathetic. A person can still not enable and still show empathy. Folks, the importance of empathy cannot be stressed more and more. Not just in addiction, but throughout the world. If we all showed some empathy towards each other, we would have a peaceful world. We would coexist in the manner that God created humans to be. Start showing empathy today. Start today, November 6th, or is it 7th? Today is the 7th, November 7th, 2017, to show empathy towards your fellow man. Don't just show empathy with your own family. Show it outside by, to your neighbors. Show it at work. God shows empathy towards us each and every day. Why can't you start today, folks? Call me at 844-405-HELP. We can help each other take our lives back. I am here waiting to show you empathy. I want to show you compassion. I want to show you sympathy. I want you to think and know that I understand what you're going through, because I've been there and I didn't like it, and I found God, and here I am today to tell you through the power of prayer, anything and everything is possible. And if you don't believe that, get in touch with me, 844-405-HELP. I'll tell you stories that'll make you totally shocked of how God works and His miracles through you, as long as you trust in Him. Have a great day.